Welcome to part 2 of the season finale of the Beyond the Playbook podcast. We are bringing to you, once again, Will Compton to kind of finish off our interview that we released last week. This will be the last episode of the season. Also wanted to kind of briefly mention that we're going to have another Sunday dinner episode coming out to kind of preview our season 2. So we'll give you guys a little bit of a preview about that, a little bit more on the college football season. So we'll keep you updated on that, but here is the part 2 of our episode with Will Compton.
That is where you win in this league if you have an opportunity, because there is luck involved too. Like, I didn't just work my way and I earned all that stuff. But day 1 of training camp, Keenan Robinson, he's a draft pick, tears his pec, day 1. Day 1 within the first team period. So I'm a 4, and now I move up to a 3. And the 2 ahead of me is an undrafted free agent like myself. So I'm like a backup to the undrafted guy. I am now a 3 on the depth chart. The 2, who's an undrafted guy, hurts his hamstring, gets a grade 2, so he's out for a couple weeks. That was finally my moment to get out, where I'm getting 2 or 3 reps a day. Now I'm getting every I'm getting a series. Yeah, I'm getting a series in every team period now. Because now I'm working with the 2s. So all of the tape and studying that I would do, coaches would sit there and Coach Hasley, he pulled me over. He's like, hey, Comp, you know you can make this team, right? And I'm like, yeah, I know I can make this team. He's like, just keep doing what you're doing. Like, people know that, like, you know your shit out there. And then it became like, all right, now we need to know that you can tackle, because you're not tackling in training camp.
Right.
So, hey, you're about to run with the 2s out there in preseason. And then I end up leading the team in tackles during preseason. It's like, yo, we got, like, this guy, he's not bad. Like, he's a good player. I got on P squad the whole year. And then the next year it was kind of like the same, like, all right, I'm back in it. I'm back in this war, this mental warfare. They try and draft somebody, not to replace you, but there's the draft happens, other free agents come, and so you're in with a new competitor. But I had to do rookie minicamp 2 years in a row because I was practice squad my entire first year. So my rookie minicamp, we didn't have a draft pick that year. So I had already had familiarity with the coaches. They're like, hey, Comp, this is an opportunity for you to show yourself, stand out a little more with us, because we get to work with you directly. Because I was pissed that I had to do another rookie minicamp. I'm like, this fucking sucks.
Right.
But anyway, I go out there. I'm being vocal. I'm loud about everything. And they're like, hey, you can make this team for real, like outright day 1. And so from there, I felt like they understand that about you. And then when the coaches get to know you a little bit more, they understand your study habits. They understand that, like, okay, he messed up here, but, like, let's wait until tomorrow, or you show him that again next week, because I bet you Comp gets it right, type of thing. And then when it does happen, they're like, this motherfucker can play in this league and play on the field.
You know what's funny is a lot of people miss, like, when it comes to evaluating guys for the draft. Unfortunately, we as coaches don't get as many opportunities to talk, especially about guys like him, who was going to be a later round draft pick or a undrafted free agent. We're talking all the scouts, and all they're looking at is height, weight, speed. That
tangible shit.
Tangible. But it's like, it's not till they get the opportunity with the coaches that, and I, like, with him, I was like, just give him I'm telling you, you want this guy on your team. He's going to make your team, da-da-da. And so a lot of times the scouts are like, yeah. But it's not until they get in front of the guys, the actual coaches, the X and O's guys, the people that really appreciate it. Unfortunately, some guys, like he said, he got a couple injuries. He got that opportunity. Some guys don't get that opportunity. Right.
And you're right, too. It's like, when you do get on the team, and Dobson, Bo, they'll all tell you, like, you just got to get in camp. You got to get in the camp, and then you'll once you get your foot in the door, blah, blah. But these coaches, like he said, he's sitting with scouts. Like, then you got to go back, and if he tries to convince a scout that I'm worth something, right? The scout, might tell a coach something. If the coach doesn't know Bo or anybody else, they're not going to give a fuck. They're like, what are you fucking talking? Like, do your job on the tangible shit, and don't fucking tell me about X's and O's and everything else. Like, to me, unless, like, Bo's sitting there, if I walk in a linebacker room and the linebacker coach is like, hey, I know one of your coaches, like, you're behind the fucking 8 ball. Like, when you walk in, like, nobody knows who you are. Like I said, I was 4th on the depth charts. Like, I was like, my number in camp was 46. Alfred Morris was 46, and he just got done making the Pro Bowl. Like, the writing was on the wall that I probably wasn't going to be sticking around. And I was on practice squad the entire year. And a couple things got to go your way just to get in front of these guys. Mm-hmm. But,
even hell with Levante. I listened to guys come in for months saying, he's not this, he's not that, he's not big enough, he doesn't weigh enough, he's this. And I was like, well, you know what? You're going to have to play against him.
Yeah,
So,
that motherfucker is a monster.
yeah, no kidding.
He's finally getting his.
But
Yeah.
there was no way he was not going to be a monster. You didn't do it like he did week in and week out without. I mean, there was no way he wasn't going to make it.
He's just got such an instinct for the ball carrier.
Yeah.
For slipping, like, because he's not the most physical guy. Like, for me, the way my body moves and everything else, like, I got to throw my face into people a lot more than others might have to, because I got shorter arms, and, like, I've got to, like, throw my face in there. Like, Levante's got, yeah, he's a little undersized, but he's always had the ability to, whether it's slip blocks or just make something subtle.
Or just
to where you
blow by him.
Right. Run by him, or you just have something subtle to where you just can't keep up with him on the field.
You talked about like knowing your weaknesses, like, but Levante probably had very, very few. Like,
I mean,
he
He
had to
wasn't
be
the
aware of.
biggest guy
yeah, I
in
was
the
gonna say
world.
he's not the biggest. Like, if you're Levante and you sit there and talk, like, I'm sure he's not gonna say I figured out a way to step and move and outrun people or slip by him, but he's just got that natural knack for like making people miss in space and being a good open field tackler. Like, that is a very slept on skill for defenders. Is that you can tackle in space, like, you're gonna have a job, because that is a fucking hard thing to do. As hard as it's coached and as shit as you feel when you can't make a tackle in space and the coach is hard as fuck on you, just take away the space, chop your feet, like, do all this other shit that seems so fucking easy.
Yeah.
But it's just like that ability of tackling in space separates you. And that's something that, like, Levante has. He's got the ability to close space very fast and hit you with a bad attitude in space.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is like, it's that that's not something that can actually be coached unless somebody has the ability and they just got to get out of their own way mentally.
And then on top of it, you combine that with preparation, which he prepared really well. He watched
smart.
a shitload of film. He's smart, and his character as a person is off the charts.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You never had to worry about him. Like,
No.
he always knew his stuff. And again, there's some stuff that I study that he might not necessarily study, or things that he studied that I might not do. And me, I might be a little more overthinking certain stuff to where he doesn't as much, because he knows what he's got to do and he understands how he can let his ability take over. Like, he doesn't want to put too much. He's somebody who's smart and gets it, and also doesn't want to put too much in his brain to overthink stuff.
Right.
Which is where sometimes I feel like would hurt me at times, is overthinking.
You would think
stuff.
too much.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I also think that that's what made me good. So it's kind of hard to, like, be too hard on myself with that shit.
Right.
But it was so funny, like, years after you guys were there, obviously we have, like, cut-ups of different things, and Will would be making checks out on the field. And I remember one where he was making checks, and he's talking to this guy, and he's talking to this guy, and they ran a mesh route, and all these crosser routes are happening, and Will's just directing traffic and pass it off, and whoever was watching the film stopped it and said, how did that all happen? I was like, preparation. They said that guy in the middle there, you told him, and he recognized it, and he got everybody on the same page, because getting communication.
It's the whole fucking thing, bro.
It is, but it's so hard getting kids to communicate. I always say, let's pass out the cell phones and let them fucking text each other. I mean, you heard
You
that.
would say some shit like that too.
But so
I woke up in a fucking cold sweat last night thinking about this play right here. We'd be watching this Friday or Saturday tape. We'd be watching Saturday tape from Friday's practice. Like, I woke up in a cold fucking sweat because this play right here gave me fucking nightmares.
but
yeah, like, that's true. But, like, a lot of, like, I mean, kids, we're all kids when we're in college, but you're afraid, like, when you're getting coached hard as fuck, sometimes you're scared to speak up loudly because you don't want to fuck up. Like, you don't want to say the wrong thing. Like, I remember one time, one of the first times I was loud, Eck was telling me, he's like, yo, you did awesome out there. Being loud, demonstrative, and there was a part of me that didn't even know what he was talking about because I don't even remember what I was saying. But I just remember these dudes wanted me to be just so.
And you have to communicate to the DBs and the
and eventually you learn.
Right.
I didn't really. Sometimes I wasn't getting mad at somebody saying the wrong thing. as long as you said it. Because I always said sometimes there's not a right or wrong answer as long as everybody's on the same page. Because everybody communicates, if everybody's wrong together, you got a chance.
Right.
But if you knew something, you didn't say something, it's like, how many times have I told you, just in business and school and football and everything else, it was, listen, say what's on your mind. If you think it, say it. And if it's wrong, somebody's going to correct you. But don't hold back, because when you hold back, that's when you're going to have a problem.
Well, I think what happens is, like, if you're a young kid and a coach is being loud about something, or they're directing something at you and something they might have pissed you off or something, and them pissing you off might not even be the case. But every person, if you talk to them directly, especially as a young mind, you're taking that individually. Whereas you could be yelling something because you want everybody to understand it on defense, and you want the coaching staff, where the player might have messed something up, and you might be, even though you're yelling at the player, you're probably yelling at the coach because this is something that could have been handled. But the player at the time doesn't necessarily know how to divide the two. Because I think about that shit a lot, is how you communicate certain ways to people, because some people can take it. It's like I was listening to your Chicago Barstool podcast, and you were saying I coached Will that way because Will was somebody who we all understood I could coach him that way, and somebody else I might not be able to coach that way, but they're understanding that he can be the example. And when I heard that, I'm thinking oh fuck, sometimes I thought it was I was just being shitty. And I didn't know that you were coaching me in that way to get, not necessarily get something out of me, but maybe it's somebody else. So, yeah.
Well,
I guess,
I've always said, I've always coached. I coached everybody differently.
Oh, yeah. I think you have to, right? As a coach.
And I mean, there was, and some guys I was going to be real hard on, and some guys I wasn't. And
because they'd shell up. Guys would and not that it's a bad thing. It's just that's how that dude probably learns, and it's going to take a little bit longer.
Think about the amount of times that I would yell at the coach, or I would get or I would sometimes, and I learned that's from Coach Seifert when I was 25 years old coaching for the 49ers. George Seifert a lot of times he would get after the coaches, and the players would rally around the coach. And at times, how many times have I said that I yelled at Eckler or whatever, or somebody out there on the field, or Marvin Sanders when he was there, and the players would be like, "Oh, that's screwed up. I can't believe he just yelled at him in front of everybody." But what happened? Players would rally around the coach, right?
Right. Because they'd be like, "Oh shit, that's our fault." Coach.
Yeah, that's our fault.
You told us that, and we didn't.
Yeah.
Blah blah.
And my coaches, they all knew that that's what I was doing, and because it wouldn't be a long thing, it would just be quick. But the players all of a sudden would get their attention, like, wow, we can't do that. We can't let that happen again. We can't get yelled at.
Yeah, no doubt.
But, you also talked about, in the NFL, how detail-oriented it is, and how, you learned through these guys like Levante at Nebraska, how important communication is as a linebacker. But in the NFL specifically, you've been, in a few different, organizations, obviously, but who on the back end, DB position? Because you mentioned playing cover two, if you're the carry guy as a linebacker, you better have somebody back there that knows that your weaknesses as well. You might not be able to be as good in coverage as somebody like Levante would, and the backside safety, he has the whole half of the field that you're kind of helping him in the middle. Who in the back end really showed you the importance of communicating to both position groups, back end, front end.
Oh man,
linebackers.
I feel lucky. I've gotten to play with some awesome safeties. I know when I was taking over and getting to start a lot more, Deshaun Golston, he was a safety in the back end who was big on communication, and when you're an undrafted guy too, and you're taking over somebody's job, there's a weird insecure part about you that comes out, because you're man, I know I belong out here, but do these guys think I belong out here because I'm taking somebody's job? Or you're just kind of a young guy. You're not a draft pick. You're not somebody who's already established as oh, he needs to be this way. And I had some good vets around me, and D Gold being one of them, Deshaun Goldston. He was somebody huge on communication, big on just being on the same page, whether you wanted to watch film, Ryan Clark was the same way. Ryan Clark, getting to sit back and watch Ryan Clark, he was very like in the playbook, in the details, yelling combinations out. He like Deshaun Goldston, Ryan Clark, I mean, Will Blackman, D Hall. D Hall transitioned to safety. I got to play with D Hall. Dante Whitner, he was on the back end of his career, but you still understood why he was lasting so long because he was so into the details about everything. DJ Swearinger, he is crazy as he is, like on the field with like his antics and things like that. Like he's somebody who takes watching film and like details very seriously.
Right.
But a lot of those guys would be so prepared themselves that when they're yelling out combinations, say on like third down, sometimes like I would only have to work up to like 3rd and 4 to 6. Other than that, I could just listen to the back end because they'll let me know like what's about to be ran. But those guys were awesome to watch because they always gave you a sense of like security when you're out there on the field. Like those dudes know just as much as I do. Like I don't have to be overbearing about something. I'm trying to prepare so hard that they don't feel like they have to carry everything on their chest. I'll be the loud, demonstrative one as long as we're on the same page. If you feel like I need to do something, let me know. They were all really good about that. I felt like I was
Success lies in the detail.
Yeah.
It just always has and always will.
Oh yeah, bro.
One thing that were you at Nebraska when Terry Joseph was there at all?
Yeah.
Yeah, Coach Joseph was my position coach at Notre Dame.
Was he really?
Crazy like crossover, how that ended up happening.
He would always fuck with me on like, because he knows I always wanted to check.
He was the best because he'd be like, he's like, I know, because Coach Lee, who's now the head coach of Vanderbilt, was our DC. He would say, Clark is telling these backers to do this and that, and they're not worried about us at all. Like they're, because you guys obviously have your checks, your jobs to do.
Yeah.
And he would always complain about how like the backers are just like, they'd have tunnel vision. They're not communicating to the back
Coach
end.
Joseph, he would always get mad because we'd be on the backside of trips. It'd be trips, far gun, and I would always want to work something with the corner.
Yeah.
And it'd be like he'd come in and just mess with me, like whether it was in and out or cloud or something like that. He'd be like, Con wants to check this or do that because I'm never trying to be in fucking isolated on the backside against a good running back.
Right.
But he'd always give me shit about doing that because I would like over communicate coverage stuff.
To all our friends from Lincoln that may be listening, we want to take a moment to thank our friends out at Sid Dillon Auto Group for all of their help they've given us during our time in Nebraska with auto care. Sid Dillon Auto Group's a family-owned business that has provided reliable and great service to the greater Lincoln, Nebraska area for over 45 years, right on 27th and Pine Lake and on 57th and O Street. They provide the best of the best vehicles, including Buick, Nissan, Hyundai, and Genesis. With the largest selection of over 500 new and pre-owned cars, you can be sure to find the ride of your life. Sid Dillon offers free pickup and delivery for sales, services, parts and accessories, and body shop work. Visit siddillon.com or call 402-464-6500 today. Sid Dillon is always looking for good used inventory, or if you or you know someone that is looking to sell a vehicle, call Nick at 402-730-6592 for a cash offer price.
Oh yeah, hopefully he can turn around.
But isn't it amazing though? Well, like the longer you were in the league, when you would walk into training camp, like me as a coach, and really sometimes even in college, I used to laugh when you'd go over like we'd be installing a defense or whatever. Or I'd be doing even when I was a position coach, and it'd be like 2 minutes in, and I'd go over like the first couple basics of it, and you'd see guys like some of them shaking their head like, yeah, like. They're not writing anything down. They're just shaking their head yes. And then they're like, oh, yeah, I got it. And I want to just, and I was like sitting there thinking to myself, oh, this guy doesn't understand a word I'm saying, and he's about to get cut.
Yes, bro.
Because
that's so important.
It's crazy.
Writing shit down is so important in everything. Like writing stuff down is such like just a big thing in all the things I do with like vision and everything else. But like understanding what you're doing defensively, like I can talk about all this stuff about personnel formations, this, that, and the other. But if you don't understand the basics of what defense you're running, like don't even worry about trying to figure out what the offense is doing because you don't understand what's happening around you. You don't understand your toolbox. You don't understand like, bro, you could call like Miami. you call Miami, but there's so many intricacies of what Miami is.
Right.
Depending on formation, depending on alignment, depending on absolutely everything. Like, yeah, if you're Mike Backer, you could write spill A to B. But that shit changes the minute it goes to one back. Mm-hmm. And then like you could have a whole run dissertation.
That's the worst. Plus, like offenses are starting to figure that out now, where they understand how these defenses are checking, and whenever you move another, you move one of those moving tight ends, for example, you move them back into the backfield and then a two back, and then you have to check into an entirely different defense.
And there's a whole run dissertation on every call and like your base calls, whether it be a dime, nickel, base, whatever the case may be. And then you got a full toolbox of passing coverages that you can do within the scheme. So the fact that dudes like won't write stuff down would blow my mind.
Yeah. I mean, some of them just kill their career, or they don't have a career because of it. And other guys just don't come close to reaching the potential that they have because they don't buy into what's necessary. There's a mental part of the game that is absolutely necessary.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you might have a less than 1% that are just so freakishly talented, they can get away with it. But even those guys, they're going to hurt you some.
Right. There'll be times where they have lapses or go backside on the gap when they shouldn't go backside, or shoot the backside, or
and it's gonna hurt. It'll hurt you.
Not understand a very fine wrinkle in a pass coverage that we're checking this situation, like the mesh thing. You know what I mean? Like there's very few stuff to where that would show up, right? But if you have you could paint a picture of whether it's trips with the X nasty and 2 and 3 close. And like in 3rd and 4 to 6, if this shows up, it's 100% of the time mesh. Where it might not be in the playbook or the install that we check, whether it's sit short or whatever you're out there trying to say to each other. That might not be in the playbook for that particular call, but in that situation, it just got brought up. If we're all on the same page and somebody fucks it up, it's like, yo, you're not doing what you need to be doing to understand this defense.
Right.
Because me and the 3 other guys, we all knew what we were talking about. Mm-hmm. But you didn't. It's like, how does that happen? It
and then everything blows up.
Yeah, lack of preparation, not understanding those little details that this showed up here and here only.
But we were talking about it when Glenn Dorsey was trying to figure out whether he was going to go pro when we were at LSU. Howie Long, his son was also making that decision, and I said, he goes, and we were getting ready to play the national championship game, and Howie said, Bo, what is Glenn going to do? I think it was Dorsey's junior year. Yeah, it was his junior year. And he said, what's he going to do? And I said, I don't think he's decided yet. I said, what's your son going to do? He goes, well, he's coming back. And I said, what did you tell him? I said, you're a guy who played in the NFL. He goes, I told him that it wasn't until I was on the downside of my career physically that I became the best player that I could be. Because it wasn't really until then that I truly embraced the mental side of the game.
So when you say downside,
like he was starting to, he goes, I wasn't quite as fast. He goes, I wasn't as young, and he goes, I started to be physically, I was on the decline. Not
takes you
horrible.
Longer to recover. I can tell you, being 32, it takes you longer to fucking recover. You just feel like there's not some twitch that's there, and again, stuff lingers way longer.
Mm-hmm. But Howie said, he goes, I was better player because at that point he goes, that's when I really got serious or more serious into the mental, the little things, the details, the mental part of it, the watching film, whatever it may be. He didn't really elaborate, but I don't think the average person out there quite understands that.
How the complexity of it?
Yeah, well, and how much better you can, how much better you can be to reach your potential if you're into the detail, if you're into the mental part of it, if you're the preparation, all those things, that there are certain degrees you're going to make yourself better. If you put the time into it, it's going to pay off. And some guys do and some guys don't, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, you're right. And just with the average person, all that stuff, it's that's why there ultimately becomes a 1%, a 10%. You know what I mean? That's why people separate themselves, is what are you wanting out of this thing? and what are you willing to do to attain it, right?
Believe me, well, it's no different in the coaching profession.
Oh, I would agree with you. I
It's
mean,
no different.
it's no different. I don't feel like in many professions, like you got to put in a serious amount of like work and sacrifice if you're trying to not be good but excel. If you're trying to excel in it, you know what I mean? Like it's like I could coach football, but if I really wanted to be somebody who is going to be fucking great at coaching football, like I better live differently than how my family expects me to live, than everybody else expects me to live, because I know my shortcomings, I know what my strengths are, and I know how much time I need to be putting in those if I'm truly wanting to be great at it.
Detail, detail, detail.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But-
and it was all like I was always looking for, okay, you know how like I always knew what I wanted to get, but it's like it doesn't matter. You have to try to figure out, okay, how do I get guys to remember when you would come back? Remember when it was me, you, and Barrett sitting in the room, and I was frustrated after the one spring ball at Nebraska, and I was like talking about, how do I get our guy, how do we get our guys to transfer their eyes to like from here to here and here to here and stop looking at one thing all the time? And it was like so many, it's like, how do you like trying to think through, how do you get those results? Because you're not going to have 1,000 reps every single time. Well, how do you think outside of the box to get your guys to do certain things that you want to do? Mm-hmm. And like, how do you do that without, like, once again, how do you do that outside of practice? How do you do it? Like, how do you watch film better? I mean, how many guys have you been around, Will, that they may watch film? Like, he knew how to watch film. Hopefully you knew how to watch film. A lot of guys, they watch film, but they have no idea what they're watching.
Yeah, they're just watching the players.
Like, they'll come out
plays.
and they'll come back and they'll be like, "Hey, coach," like it's a defensive guy, and he's telling me about he's a defensive lineman. He said, "Hey, God, I was watching. How about that corner for so and so or whatever?" It's like, why are you watching that?
Yeah.
Like me, I was so like I didn't see things like that. Like I was like when I used to watch film, I used to just be locked in to what I was. Okay, I got to accomplish this, and
like
this.
You have a purpose to your
Yeah.
But
how many
you
guys
talked about
have no
taking
purpose?
notes.
Yeah. Like me, I would never watch games until I was at the end of the week.
Yeah.
Like I'm not watching games. Like what are we watching this game for? I don't give a shit in sequence what they're doing. Like what are they doing every first and second down?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What are they doing in all the situational football? Oh, we're in the red zone. We're in the fringe now. Now we're in the red zone, low red, high red. Like all these different situations. You're watching that the entire week. And then maybe you'll watch a game in sequence.
Just
and
so
then
we'll
you kind of
see
know
game
every play
flow
they're
at
about
the
to
end of the
run.
week.
And you kind of just get a feel for how they might run a game. But
That was funny. I mean, which I agree with everything you just said. But like me, I would watch games. Like first thing I'd do is I'd watch like 4 games. And then I wouldn't watch another game until the very end of the week. Then I would go from there just to get from a defense, from a coach's standpoint, to get a feel for a play caller.
Gotcha.
And then I would be like, okay, I got enough of that. And then I would get on the cut-ups. And then I wouldn't watch another game until the night before the game.
Right.
So I would start there, go there. Like I would start just generally, detail, and then go back to that at the end of the week and just to kind of refresh my memory.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you.
But I had the time. I mean, I that was my job to do that. But
Right.
But it's funny. But everyone's a little bit different. Some guys, it's just craziest thing to me ever is that. I mean, some guys have no idea how to watch film. It's the craziest thing ever. I mean, guys that have been in the profession for years.
But
and they
think
have no
about
idea.
it. Think about it. It's not like there's necessarily a course on how to watch film.
No, but you got to put the time in. You have to, like when you sit there and you just know that some guys like can
find systems that work.
watch film and they're not absorbing anything.
Right.
You have to have systems in place.
Yeah,
like-
and you have to study film. You have to study it. You can't just watch. It's not a TV show and it's not a video game.
Yeah.
You have to study. And that's why, like, I mean, you saw my notebooks. those little notebooks I used to.
Yeah.
That's all I used, and I would take notes the whole time. I'd have a whole book on each team by the end of the week.
Yeah.
And other guys would just be sitting there watching film and be like, "Where are your notes?"
Yeah. And it'd just be like whatever corrections for a defense, like in practice or something.
Yeah.
Something small. Yeah, I didn't get it, and I would have high anxiety if I didn't prepare the way I was like trying to prepare. But yeah, I'm with you because it's all situation. Like it's literally all situational football.
Yeah.
2 minutes. If they run something out of the ordinary, you're like, oh, why are they running it? And then you try and look on the clock or see maybe who they're playing, and it's like, okay, this is probably a one-off.
Yeah, or know when to turn a game off. Let's say you are watching a game. I mean, if it's 40-0,
they're probably
turn it
throwing.
off.
They're
Yeah,
probably.
I mean,
they're probably running. They're probably running like coverages just to get the tendencies swaying a different way. Like I remember, if we were ever beating a team like pretty bad, we would run shit that we never would run like in like a normal game situation just
Right.
to get the tendencies off. And,
Right,
throw
throw the tendencies off.
Yeah, and
you hope that people aren't buying into it, but some people
Some people
are.
do.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean a lot of what the GAs do on Sundays is just gathering that data, so you can make those decisions during the week that show like, oh, hey, they have a tendency to do this, that. But we talked a lot about, detail oriented film, preparing the right way. But I want to hear a little bit more about your experience with Barstool personally. He's been doing a few Barstool podcasts. I saw that you had something go down with the KFC and fights
Yeah.
how have you guys built a relationship with Barstool, and how's that been?
Oh, it's been awesome, man. I mean, they let us, like, Barstool is one of those, like, you're not going to come into Barstool and they're going to do the work for you. Like, you got to continue to, like, do all the work and everything else. Like, they identify you as talent and they continue to allow you to produce and do all the stuff that we want to do.
Yeah.
And they just kind of essentially want to pour gasoline on what we're doing. But our relationship with them builds each and every year. And again, they don't, as long as we deliver ad reads and everything else, like they don't call us, they don't like make sure we're not saying anything or
They let you do your thing.
Yeah, they let us do our thing, which I think the freedom is the best part. And it's like that with all the brands. I mean, you guys are familiar with Barstool. Like, you've been on a few shows of theirs. Like, they have free reins to do whatever. Like, it's not some corporate America to where you have to, like, be a certain way to be under the Barstool brand.
I think that's what makes them good, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because it's unfiltered. It's raw.
It's a bunch of
like,
different
Hey, if
personalities.
they're putting up with you, they're pretty good. Hey, when you guys did the live show, did you have any interaction with the audience?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like
So we
did
do
you
like a
take questions and stuff from them?
Oh, yeah. We do
Okay.
like a shout out. Like, we do a segment called Shout Out No Free Shout Outs, and we kind of just shout out something. So today I shouted out barbecues because it's barbecue season. The weather's starting to change a little bit. Like, we're smoking meat on the weekends and grilling stuff up, and it brings the camaraderie out of everybody. So I love barbecue. So shout out to barbecue.
Yeah.
But we'll like let fans do that. We'll interact with them that way. So you do that. You ask them questions.
Boy, I wish I would have known. I would have been. If you didn't know I was in the stand or in the audience, I could have had some fun.
Oh, man. We should do one. You could be one of our guests. We go to Nebraska.
Oh my God! Oh, I'd do that in a second.
We
He
go to
could never do a
Lincoln. We'll
live
do a
show.
live show. Yeah, you could.
What?
Your dad had to stand up and do Big Red
Could
Breakfast.
I do a live show? Shit, I did it all the time.
Yeah, Big Red Breakfast. Yeah,
Every
Big Red
Saturday
Breakfast.
I did a live show. Sometimes it didn't go real well.
Yeah. No, but I
But-
think like we go to Lincoln or something like that. That would be. We'd sell at the Pinnacle Bank Arena.
It would be interesting.
Let's make it happen.
Wouldn't it?
I think yes, that would be interesting. I think people enjoy our conversations too.
No, but I got to tell you, had you and Taylor not like when you did your live show, what if I would have just showed up in the audience?
You'd
and
have
just
been on
started yelling
stage.
shit. No, but I would.
Well,
But
we
I
would have
would've-
saw you because we're
Yeah,
closer about it. Like
yeah.
we would have eventually seen you. Like, oh, we got Bo Pelini here. We'd have got you on stage or something. We would have started heckling you.
Well, that's a crock of shit.
Yeah,
I think that would be awesome, though.
Yeah, I feel like people. I just remember you walked into. You guys did it at a bar, right? Or restaurant or something?
No, at the comedy store. It's called Zany's Comedy Club.
Gotcha. Well, I just remembered the last time we were here last year, we had walked into some bar on Broadway, and I think it was that Honky Tonk Central Bar to me, my cousins and them, and we walk in and there's a guy sitting right in on the inside, and he like kind of sees him, and he like I think he like recognizes him a little bit, and he goes, "You look a lot like Frank Solich."
He goes, "Is your name Frank Solich?" And I was like, "Nope." And he goes, "Dang, you look just like Frank Solich." And I was like, "No." And he walked away, and he kept looking at me because
You think he was just getting the name wrong? Like he
yeah,
was just thinking,
like, he knew I was a
Frank
coach at
Solich.
Nebraska. He knew he saw it from there, but he was thinking Solich. He's an older guy. And,
Yeah.
And somebody was like, "You gonna tell him?" Like, no. But I could tell the guy was like, eventually he probably Googled and said
Nebraska coaches, and then he gets home like, "Fuck, it was
Yeah.
Bo Pelini."
Well,
Yeah,
that's one of the funniest stories ever. Is me and Tim Beck when I was at Nebraska. I'm recruiting in Dallas. This was I think when I first got. I had just gotten the job, so I just left LSU. We had just played the national championship game. We're in Dallas, and we land and we're kind of running late for a home visit. I said, "Tim, you go get the car. I'll go grab." We had like 2 check bags. I said, "I'll grab the bags. Pick me up." So we go down, and I go down. I'm sitting there waiting for the bags. I'm kind of talking on the phone a little bit, and I feel this guy staring at me. And the bags were taking forever. And I'm sitting there thinking, all we had was like 2 little carry-ons that we had to check. And the guy walks up and he goes, I have an N on my shirt, ready to go to home visit. He goes, you a Nebraska fan? I said, "They're all right." And he goes, and he kind of sat there, and he goes, "You guys got that Pelini guy now, huh?" And I go, "Yeah, unfortunately." I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "What do you think?" I said, "I think the guy's an idiot." And he goes, "Oh, come on, give him a chance." And by this time, Coach Beck had come in. He's standing there. And I go, "I think the guy's a jackass." And I grab the bag and we kind of walk out. And he goes, "Who are you talking about?" And I said, "Me." But later on, the guy was probably like turned on the TV and saw me on TV, and he was thinking, "Nah, that kid."
Yeah, no doubt. Like, there's no way that was him.
Sid Dillon is the absolute best in the game and has more new and used parts, services, and cars than anyone in the state of Nebraska, including Buick, Chevrolet, GMC, Cadillac, Mazda, Nissan, Hyundai, Genesis, Ford, Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge, and Ram vehicles. So if you're ever in Lincoln for a football game or from the Lincoln area, definitely consider stopping in the Sid Dillon if you need any help with your car. They are located in Blair, Crete, Fremont, Wahoo, and Lincoln, Nebraska. Visit siddillon.com or call 402-464-6500. Also tell them the Pelini sent you in for the $250 off any new or used vehicle today.
Yeah, those are always the best, like just walking through like airports and just like public settings, see like how people react. I'm sure you get it now. I mean, you've gotten
Sometimes, yeah.
especially in Nashville, I feel like,
Yeah, there's some you'll get like the boy.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
I got on the plane last night. It was pretty funny. The guy, you could tell the guy he goes, "You look so familiar." And I said, "You look familiar too." And that's when he was like, "Oh."
You were just messing with people.
What are you doing? When do these drop? When does this air?
I don't know.
We're dropping in
That's
week
up to,
and a half.
That's up to the producer and his crew.
Yeah,
But,
we're gonna
pretty
drop,
soon here.
We're gonna drop it by season, so we're gonna release the 5 episodes we've recorded. We recorded with Marlo and with cousin Mark and then Vince Marrow. Do you remember?
Yeah,
Vince
yeah.
Marrow?
Oh, yeah, I know Vince.
So he was at
Kentucky.
Youngstown.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was recruiting out in Youngstown. We had
and
him
he
on.
and I did it. Kind of. This is the first
Did you guys
one.
talk about fights and shit?
Huh?
Did you guys talk about how you beat people up and shit like that back in the day?
They talked
I
about the
never
old
beat
Youngstown.
anybody up. I got beat up a few times.
No, he talked a lot about how he would go and he would run on the south side with him and all his boys that they grew up there. Because he was from Boardman, which is like
Vince could he could sell ice to a fucking Eskimo, dude.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I used to
he
play
recruited.
we used to play basketball back. Vince and I, we go back a long time. I like to think I had a pretty big influence on him coming to Mooney because he's
his
done well
parents.
for himself. Yeah.
Oh yeah, he has.
Oh yeah, he's
All
killing it at
Vince's
Kentucky.
brothers played at South. You know his brothers, all played. Well, a couple of his brothers, they were really good, like all Big Ten players at Wisconsin.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I got you.
Who else
So-
on the recruiting staff at Nebraska, like him, like people that are really heavily involved in recruiting, helped you get to Nebraska? Like you guys said, like Aaron Carney, like some of those guys, like
Coaches or
just just
Eckler was the main guy. Who
yeah,
recruited
Eckler
you,
was
right?
pretty good. Yeah, Eckler was good. Eckler was on me the whole time.
right. And you said Ross Ells came after the after.
Yeah, Ross
you were
Ells was there when I was like a sophomore or junior.
Where's Coach Ells?
And
at
Els
now?
Els
Michigan
was cool.
State?
I don't know how it'd be getting recruited by him, but Els, I always appreciated the way Els went about preparation and teaching us and stuff
Yeah.
like that. I felt like I learned a lot.
Good
from
coach.
Him. Yeah, I do think that. He's at Michigan State now.
Yeah.
What about you? What have you talked? Have you answered questions on
On what?
what your future holds?
You know, I'm not. I'll never say never. I'll never say I'm not. If the right thing comes, then I'll do it. If it doesn't, then I'm not. I mean, that's really how it's gonna.
Currently, are you trying to get back in coaching?
Like right now, like as
Yeah.
we speak, no.
Because I know Neil wouldn't tell me. Neil don't tell anybody's fucking business.
Yeah.
Doesn't
no.
matter how close you are with him. Like, yeah,
Is
so
that your agent? Is he your
yeah,
agent?
Yeah.
I could see myself. I could more see myself doing the NFL than college.
Gotcha.
But like I said, it would have to be. I'm not. I wouldn't. I'm not ready to. It's not anywhere and for anybody. I mean, it would have to be the right fit to enjoy it. And I got enough other things going on that. I mean, I love the coach. I love the competition, but at this point in my life, it would have to be right.
Yeah.
I mean,
He's got to convince my mom too. It's hard to do.
Really.
yeah. It would have to be the right place for her.
Do you wish, like, if you take outside the bullshit and the drama, do you wish you were still coaching in Nebraska? Like, do you wish that situation would have worked out to where you're still actually there to this day?
No.
Fuck, why not?
Well, I mean, I guess that's a hard question.
Yeah, because I don't know what you went through, but I'm thinking like,
Yeah. You wish you could have stayed. I could have stayed someplace because I think we could have continued. We could have won a lot. We could have kept getting. We would have kept getting better. I mean, we had a great. I thought we would have had a great team coming back that next year, and
What
But-
recruits did you have that
well,
decommitted?
we had the. Well, I don't know who I can't remember all that, but we had like the Davis twins, and we had some guys that decommitted. We had a good team coming back. We would have had our D line would have been unbelievable. But
Didn't
you
you have
know-
Lamar Jackson?
do you think you're still there if Icarus didn't get hired?
I don't know. It's hard to say because Harvey Perlman was such a snake and was such a bad guy that he was manipulating the whole thing. But yeah, between him and Eichhorst. But here's the problem with Nebraska, and I'll say this: the reason why things don't get done there. I mean, it's is the people who have the ability to make the changes aren't willing to step outside and make and put themselves out there to make hard decisions.
Like what?
Because they want to please other people. That
Yeah,
might be above
they're
them?
afraid of their own. To be a leader, you got to have some balls, and you got to be ready to say things that sometimes people aren't going to agree with. And I mean, think about this: how could Harvey Perlman have lasted as long as he did as chancellor there? It's crazy. He went through like 3 different coaches. He lost the school, paid out millions and millions of dollars to coaches. And I bet he's still getting a check there now. No one ever held the guy accountable. Think about that.
Yeah.
It's asinine. Let me tell you, I played it. That would not have happened at Ohio State. There's no way. They wouldn't have, the leaders wouldn't have put up with it. But there are people there at Nebraska, some of the powers to be, didn't have a spine. So they were willing to make tough decisions. I mean, they were going to extend my contract that year that I left, or that we got fired, parted ways, whatever you want to call it. But I said, I'm not doing this under these circumstances. This is crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's shortening my life. It's not good for my family. It's not good for the coaches or their families. And in the end, and I tried to get the board of trustees. I said, we have to sit down in the same room, and some things need to get fixed. But to do that, you got to have true leadership, and we didn't have that.
But, it's hard to control that from your position.
No, you can't control that from the coaching position. It's impossible. But the board of trustees, the chancellor, I mean, there are people that's what they were elected to do.
Do you think that
they weren't willing to do it?
Yeah.
Do you think that a lot of these decision makers now in college sports, like you've talked about, I know you've talked about this with me, but how a lot of athletic directors now, have never been involved in athletics, and they're making decisions to.
It happens every day, which no one talks about. Is in athletic, whether you talk about athletic directors in college or sometimes NFL owners in the NFL. It's not a video game. It's not Madden Sports. This is real life, and they're picking, or they're making decisions, $1 million decisions on a product they really don't know much about. Mm-hmm. Think about that. Think about it, they're lean, especially if they're making the final decision. Think about an NFL owner picking a coach. He's not qualified to do that. I mean, he doesn't know anything about it, about coaching, about.
Not
they
all of
think
them.
they do. Well, none of them. That's not their business. I mean,
Well, it's their team, though.
it is. But why Edward J. DeBartolo was a great owner at the 49ers is he hired great people.
He delegated that decision making.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure he had a big part of it, but he leaned on the right people and listened to the right people. And he probably maybe, I don't know whether he did or he didn't, but I'm sure he made most of the final decisions. But he always had the right people in place. And they were people that, former coaches, people that knew the product. But that doesn't happen the majority of the time. Think about an athletic director who was a lawyer, and he's been in higher education his whole life. What does he know about picking a coach? And they hire, but really they hire these consulting firms who really, what they're looking to do is have a good press conference, but they don't really know what that coach is. They don't get into detail. I mean, I had a couple interviews for head jobs that you couldn't even fathom. But they didn't even ask you a football question. It's like you walk out there and say, they don't know anything about me. And they were almost ready to offer me a multi-million-dollar contract. But you wonder why all these guys get fired all the time and all these millions of dollars are getting paid out in sports. It's because not necessarily they hired the wrong guy in the first place, but they hired a guy for the wrong reasons because they didn't know the right questions. They didn't know what they were buying in the first place. I mean, that would not happen for the most part in regular business. It doesn't happen in regular business. It doesn't happen like Bill Gates isn't calling me and asking me my opinion on hiring a CEO. I don't know anything about it. I'm not qualified to do that. It happens in sports every day. But no one talks about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is crazy.
It's crazy. That's why, and I truly believe that's why there's so many. If somebody ever did a study on the amount of money that's being paid out to coaches and personnel people that aren't working there anymore, it's staggering the amount of money that goes on there.
Yeah, there's so much money to be passed around. Just like, oh, we made a mistake. Let's buy him out and fucking pay him for the rest of the time.
Yeah. But it's still, that money could be, there are some places that's happening where those schools can't afford to do that, but they are doing it. It's a shame. It's kind of crazy. when you really think about it.
Yeah.
Like your boy Charlie Weiss, I think he'd signed like a 10-year contract. He'd been getting paid by Notre Dame till like.
I think
Like
he's still
through
getting paid by Notre Dame.
Yeah,
He just drove around on his golf cart with his rings
Yeah.
on his hands.
The best is the picture of him out on the sideline, just sitting. He was sitting.
Oh,
on
you're
a chair
bitter
on the
about
side.
that because he didn't recruit you.
Yeah, I was bitter because I did not get offered.
You wouldn't have played in the NFL though.
You never know. No, I did. Not to blow smoke, but it was going to Nebraska. It was probably the top 3 decisions I've ever made.
Your wife, what's the third?
Oh, my wife's not in the top 3. Man, that's a good question. Usually, I always get to leave it at that. My top 3 decisions I've ever made: my wife, my college.
Starting the bus.
I was thinking about that. I think starting the bus is an awesome decision.
And you got a great crew around you.
Yeah.
Taylor's obviously a great.
Yeah, how did
host.
you end up with Taylor? How did that whole come about? You guys just talked about it?
So we were I had just signed with the Titans, and Taylor and I had bonded over a podcast. We talked about Joe Rogan, we talked about Ben Greenfield, and Ben Greenfield's like a performance guy, recovery performance, so saunas, a lot of recovery stuff. So Taylor and I, we call each other accountability buddies. We would do stuff together like after practice and like do recovery methods and shit like that. And then Taylor trained with Dobson with me at Vanderbilt in the summertime. So we just got close. And then the whole bus thing came about because that year with the Titans, they had drafted a first rounder in Rashaan Evans. And I kind of knew, like, oh, damn, I'm not going to get to play because he's a first rounder. Like, he'll play. And no one got injured. And so I stayed a depth guy and a special teams guy the entire year. So I never really got an opportunity to play. So part of me was like, this could be my last year playing. And if it's not, I'm going to be a minimum guy because I don't have any tape and I'm boxed in an undrafted pedigree.
Yeah.
So I started to take that time to start studying up, writing a lot of stuff down on what I wanted the podcast to look like and doing podcasting. And I asked Taylor one night to do it with me. I kind of felt like he's like, oh, would you want somebody to do it with? I was like, bro, that'd be awesome if you did it with me. He's like, I'll do it with you. And then I waited for him to come back after he was training in the off season, and then we started putting the podcast together.
You guys complement each other perfect.
Thank you.
Now you guys
But I
got
just
what?
think
How many
you
episodes?
both have great personalities in your own way, but you guys just, I don't know. I mean, I don't watch
it's
it
fun
all
to
the
listen
time
to.
like he does, but I just think you guys, I think it's a perfect fit.
Yeah, it's worked out, man. There were times where, it's a grind. Like, we'd be out there in the heat with no AC, and it's like in the 90s, and we're running like 12 podcasts in 1 week. And Taylor, he had just signed the biggest deal in the NFL, so there's part of it's like, if it doesn't get moving like he's wanting it to, like, am I gonna have to do something on my own?
Yeah.
Or, there was just tough times because he had tested positive, he had torn his ACL, so there were like some times where it was like, there was
Hard to get them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. And at the end of the day, like, he's in a spot to where he doesn't have to do all this stuff. And but now where it's at, it's like, it's pretty fucking cool. You get to build a business with one of your best friends and get to do what we do.
Now, hopefully, you get a chance as you're winding down here to better is your golf game getting better?
No, but I do need to get on the course. I think about what you taught me all the time. Like, from what happened on that day, I feel confident enough to tell people, like, yeah, I can play a little bit.
Oh yeah, you're the most improved.
Because I stink. It's sad that you're actually taking golf advice from me.
Bro, did I not get better that day?
No, you did.
Oh yeah.
Come on now.
You did.
No, you had the yips on the first hole, but then after that you settled in.
I know.
Yeah.
I needed Bo just to start cussing me out like the old days.
But
Yeah.
you know what? You have potential. You could be a good golfer if you ever. You obviously
I'll do
never
it.
play.
No, I don't play
He's
a
got
lot.
so much shit
I would
going
like to do it a lot more though, because it just seems fun. And it's like
But with the
something to
baby
do.
now, I don't see it happening.
Really?
It gets harder and harder, buddy.
I'm sure it does.
Do you know what? Tim Marlowe's learning that right now.
How many's he got? 2?
He's got 2. Yeah.
Yep. All
Timmy,
the guys are
man, I
going
miss
through it.
Timmy, bro.
Oh yeah, he's the best.
He is. He's awesome.
He was
Yeah, we had a
like
great podcast.
I laughed at all the guys I've coached with, or whatever. Even some of the players, like people would always be like, Coach Bo, go golf and go do this. I'm like, at that time, my kids were young. It was like, I can't. They're like, oh, what, And I'm like, I always tell those guys now when I'm able to go out and play, that it's like, see, now you know.
Yeah, fuck, dude. I know. I need to get out there.
When your wife says, hey, be home, or can you help with the thing? And you got all your buddies saying, hey, we're going golfing. We're going to go drink. We're going to go see if we can drink a 12-pack in 9 holes or whatever.
God, I know.
But-
Good times, dude.
But I think we're starting to we're losing a little bit of battery on our cameras, so we might have
That's
to
what
wrap it
happens
up.
when you have
But
a good pod.
listen, Will, we appreciate that you came out here to hop on the pod. We talked about a lot of great stuff, and we're excited to see how your career after football progresses with the bus.
I
And
appreciate
It's going to
with
be
your
awesome
family.
because everything you put your mind to, you can do.
I appreciate
No
that.
doubt, no doubt. But thanks a lot, Will.
Yeah, thank you. Hey, I'm fired up being one of your first 5. Come on now.
Thanks for tuning in to this last episode of our first season of the Beyond the Playbook podcast. We'd like to thank our sponsors again for all of their help putting this production together. Couldn't have done it without them. But definitely tune in to our episode this Sunday to hear a little bit about what we're going to do for season 2, some of the guests that we're having on, and just a little bit about the upcoming football season and where we see that going. So thanks for tuning in. Hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, engage, all of that. Really appreciate all of the support, and we're hoping to bring you guys some more great content coming soon.